ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, you can check out our website. As always, it's infectionpodcast.com. Joining us from parts unknown in his brand new humble abode, Brian with an I, Aldridge. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I'm doing very well. Yeah. On a new, same setup, new location. So I was hoping everything when I moved it over plugged in the same way and worked still. Yep. So it seems to be working. My green screen is no longer on a track. It's actually pinned to the wall. So that's kind of nice. So it won't be waving in the wind if I want to.
Well, I don't know why you're attacking my green screen, which is on a track, but that's fine. You can do you. Okay, this is completely unrelated. We didn't talk about this before the show at all. Did you see this gruesome, because I know you're a hockey guy. Did you see this gruesome clip on Twitter of this guy overseas playing hockey and getting his arteries slashed?
Yeah, my wife, because I had seen that and I showed the video, or my wife had seen the video, and my first reaction was, that is not a natural, he wasn't falling.
Yeah, he had to have kicked him, right?
He kicked it. He was being a jerk, lifted his leg at the guy, and that's not something you do in ice hockey.
Yeah, because you're running around with a razor blade on your foot.
Yes.
Blades
One of my worst fears in ice is that somehow my glove's going to fall off, I'm going to brace myself, and someone's going to skate over my fingers.
And just chop it clean off.
Yeah, I mean, it'll just slice your fingers right off with the weight of a person.
Sure.
I mean, so this is something where in roller hockey, I've kind of, because of the way roller hockey works, I've kind of put my leg up a little bit, to get my balance. But I don't do that in ice, period. You don't put your blade out there and kind of catch. Because in roller, what's going to happen? I mean, they're rubber wheels, no major damage. But this guy was an ex-NHL player. Well, the one who died, I think, was an ex-NHL player. I don't know about the guy who did the kicking, but he's played hockey long enough, obviously, to know that that's a no-no.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty crazy. Like I saw somebody said it to me, and I was like, well, damn, I didn't want to see that at all. So I don't know why I decided to bring that up, but I just thought I was curious if you had seen it. All right, back to this show. We talk about video games and some of the ongoings in the video game industry. Brian, here is a pretty interesting story out of Zen Studios, which is, I believe, a big. They deal with pinball is one of their big things, right?
Well, Pinball FX. I don't know if you've ever seen. It was a big thing on. I know with Xbox, it was a big thing you get on the Xbox. They had it for PC, but this is all part of that Embracer Group. I mean, we've been hearing a lot lately. Okay. Subsidiaries of Embracer Group just letting people go left and right. And Embracer Group, from what I remember, us talking about them acquiring a lot of companies during COVID. So when companies were struggling, they acquired Zen Studios back in 2020.
Okay.
And it became a subsidiary of Saber Interactive. And now they're letting go, 32 of their staff. And it's just, this has been, Crystal Dynamics, Beamdog, and Gearbox Publishing, those are all companies under Embracer Group that have all let people go just in the past couple months. So they're definitely doing some restructuring there and trying to figure out what's going on over there. But it is pretty sad. But if they're trying to save the company, they're just in such a kind of a bad state. They're figuring out how they're going to keep all these companies alive, and the best way to do it is just trim fat along the whole thing. Which is what they got to be doing.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about this, and I feel like it's kind of repetition. There's a lot of repetition at this point, but I think it's important. You're faced with these decisions as a company CEO of continuing down the current path and potentially destroying the entire company, which is what happens if you run out of money, going into some sort of bankruptcy or liquidation. Or you try and cut as much as you can to just survive and hobble along until, and there will be an uptick in the industry and in the market, and then you'll be able to, maybe it's not the same people, but you'll be able to hire people back and then get back to whatever sort of what full staff looks like for your production. It seems like that's where we are right now with almost every single one of these companies. It's crazy.
Well, And there's two of them that they shut down altogether.
Okay. What are
Campfire
those?
Cabal.
Okay.
And I think that is part of THQ Nordic, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And then also Volition, which is the ones that made Saints Row.
Wow.
They closed that. And this was all part of.
Oh, I remember we talked about that back in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is all part of things that they're just using to kind of trim the fat. And I hope that these companies come back stronger, because I understand having to, in these industries, I remember I explained this, I don't know how many months ago, but in these type of companies where they do sporadic hiring and mass hiring when, during COVID, we saw a lot of crazy hiring.
But you bulk up for a project.
Yeah, you bulk up. They thought they saw big money of people staying home, playing video games. That was the new normal. People weren't going to leave their houses anymore. They needed something to do. Let's make a ton of video games. So they hired everybody that they could get.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, okay, COVID wasn't what everybody was thinking it was going to be. We've got to be really careful for Google there, and you just got it didn't ramp up and maintain for a long period of time, like maybe they were hoping for. And now, then Biden came into office, and now look at where we're at with the economy, and people aren't buying video games. I mean, it ended up being the exact opposite of what they were expecting, what they planned for. And now they got to get rid of all those people because they had ambitions that didn't pan out because of reality. And here we are.
Yes, here we are indeed. So that's disappointing to see in terms of what's going on over there. Some more kind of economic news. Bandcamp, which I remember talking about, but it wasn't immediately obvious to me. Epic owns them. We covered that probably back about a year or so ago.
Well, I thought they got rid of them.
So I think they're in the process of trying to divest these companies, but again, that's a problem. They don't just say, "Well, you're no longer a part of us." It's a process.
So they sold Bandcamp to SongTrader.
Okay,
and then I think after they sold, then they let half of the staff go. So it's not really Epic that let the staff go, from what I understand. It's SongTrader, which it could be that there's a lot of positions that they already have at SongTrader to do various things. They may have applications that they're going to be rolling, into one of them versus the other. So I would assume that this is more of a restructure because they're merging two companies or bringing a company in. I was trying to see Bandcamp. Yeah, I was trying to see if there was any news of why.
Well, no,
but the SongTrader offered a statement on why it's not acquiring Bandcamp and its entire team. Here's what they said. Over the past few years, the operating costs of Bandcamp have significantly increased. The company wrote in a statement, it required some adjustments to ensure a sustainable and healthy company that can serve its community of artists and fans. After a comprehensive evaluation, including the importance of roles for smooth business operations and pre-existing functions of SongTrader, 50% of Bandcamp employees have accepted offers to join SongTrader.
So it's not. So they were technically laid off at Epic because they never made it over to SongTrader.
They didn't accept whatever it was to transition to the new company.
Yeah. So it's technically it was under Epic's layoffs because that's where they were, but technically they weren't invited over to the new company. So that's pretty interesting as well.
Yep. And it says pre-existing functions. So it could be if there's not a position for you at SongTrader that existed over at Bandcamp, then you didn't have a place in the new company. So, I mean, technically, you're getting laid off.
And, we're talking about some smaller groups and some smaller entities with this, but how about this for you, Brian? Sony, PlayStation, reportedly waves of layoffs at PlayStation.
It's hitting everybody.
It's literally hitting everybody. Looking at a LinkedIn post from one of their senior level designers. Unfortunately, following a wave of layoffs last week was my last at PlayStation. So we don't have actually any statement from PlayStation itself, but seeing some comments coming out from individuals that worked at PlayStation in various categories. You've got some artists that are posting about this, and some other various people within the industry as well, or within what we're in Sony, I guess. And they're saying and reporting the same thing. We don't know how big of those layoffs, but apparently,
one thing I wanted to mention, Bungie also, because a lot of people don't remember, Bungie is now a part of Sony.
Sony, yeah.
Bungie got purchased by Sony. And they had to let go around 100 staff. They said that revenue is 45% below projections for 2023 during Destiny 2's poor performances. Sony, I don't understand their logic. They bought a company that has one game that's active.
Okay, I think this is an interesting conversation. Destiny's poor performance, 45% below projections. Your gut reaction to that might be holy crap, like that's insane. Destiny is a free-to-play game. Destiny's money comes from microtransactions.
Yes.
When people don't have
a harder time doing right now.
When people don't have any money, they're going to cut down on their microtransactions. So you've got all of these games. All of these free-to-play games, from even games like Fortnite. I mean, plenty of these mobile games. This is the disadvantage of a free-to-play game. When times are good and people have cash, you can make a boatload of it. Destiny has made hundreds of millions of dollars. As a franchise, it's made hundreds of millions of dollars. But when that well and that tap starts to dry up, which is what it has been doing and what we've been talking about now for probably 16 or 18 months on this show.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, and I've been doing the same thing on my radio show too. This is the unfortunate reality of this kind of game. Now, it's not a huge layoff. It's about 8%. They had about a 1,200 person staff. But so it's not like they're not slashing half the company, but an 8%. But
they are doing salary freezes, hiring freezes. They're limiting travel, and that was all stuff they announced before these set of layoffs. So they're trying to cut their budget, limit their amount of expenses. And they said the staff that were laid off receive a minimum of 3 months of severance and health insurance, as well as prorated bonuses.
Oh, well, there you go.
So they're getting some money to go out the door.
Yeah, that's better than just so sad, too bad. It's interesting to note, looks like, so their expansion that was slated to be coming out, the Lightfall expansion, has been delayed to June of 2024, while Marathon, which was in development since 2019, has been pushed back to 2025. So it sounds like they're not even able to get some of their projects off of some of these expansions, which are paid, which is where you can generate some cash real quick on a, I don't know what their expansions are, probably $30, where you could generate some revenue pretty quickly. And I guess that's not available either.
Yeah, and this is going to keep happening. This is something where here, I don't know what their reasoning for delaying so much. That is a little strange to me, other than maybe they're hoping that people are going to be purchasing in a year. I mean, is that possibly what it is? Sometime next year, during the election year, they're hoping that the economy starts to rebound. Some sense is in some of the decisions when it comes to our finances for the government. Who knows what they're hoping for? But maybe they're thinking that people will be willing to spend a little more money here next year.
I wouldn't gamble on that. If I were trying to base my business, I'm not sure that I would gamble on that necessarily being the case.
Well, and we've got other companies. The one that we had mentioned, another Embracer owned one was the Digic, DIGIC. They laid off 35 employees here just in the past couple of weeks. And this is one where they had 325 employees before the layoffs. And and it says that had about 40 to 50 freelancers. So I don't know, on these, how many of those that was about 10% of their workforce.
Yeah.
That they let go. They were working on most recently like a Assassin's Creed, Mirage, and Lords of the Fallen. So these are pretty big, part of, I think they also got Perfect World Entertainment around the same time. This is December 2021 when they purchased this company. But another company that's under there that they're trimming the fat on. One thing I wanted to mention here really quickly, YouTube is even, one thing they changed recently was the ads. They're putting in things to try to prevent ad blockers, because I'm sure they're hitting a same kind of crunch when it comes to companies advertising with them. I mean, if all these companies are struggling to keep employees, they're probably also struggling to have a big advertising budget, which is really going to affect Google.
Well, it also affects radio and television as well, Brian. It's something, I'm very well aware of, and it's very, very scary into being in an nearly a 100% ad-supported business. It's very scary.
Yes. So what they're doing is, because video gamers face a poor reality, as YouTube and Twitch could reconsider multi-million-dollar streaming deals.
Wow.
They said, I don't think that's a sustainable business. So we're going to see Twitch and YouTube probably stop. Because one thing Twitch did recently was saying, hey, you're allowed to stream on other platforms. I think they're getting rid of all these exclusivities.
They have no choice. You can't keep giving these guys $10 million a year to stream on your platform. You can't do that forever. That's not practical.
And it seemed like it really started with Dr. Disrespect. I mean, that was one of the first ones where they kind of just dumped him for no reason. He left and went to YouTube. And it seems like from that point on, we've had a list of major names when it comes to streaming, dumping YouTube or dumping, Twitch, or, going wherever, just because of either restrictions that they put on them, high fees, a lot of different things. So Ninja, there was another one that really kind of that spurred that as well. Going to Mixer back in the day, which also is defunct. So that they're being affected the same way. Hardware, AMD laid off 450 people from their GPU division, and they say it's because profits have dropped by as much as 94% year over year. That is a
Can you
huge
explain
drop.
that to me? That's not possible. Not in the whole GPU division as a whole. There is no way that their GPU division saw a 94% year over year drop. That's not practical.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe they had a spike that was unnatural. It says the AMD's financial earnings for the second quarter of 2023 came in at $5.4 billion, a year-over-year dip of 18%. However, the net profit was a mere $27 million, a 94% decrease from the $447 million recorded last year.
So their net is significantly different.
From 447 to 27. That is a huge drop. So, this is hitting everyone. And I've heard claims that the supply chain issues have been fixed, and now we're going to see Sony PlayStations being sold again. Well, you can make Sony PlayStations, but if people aren't going to buy them, as we're seeing with video cards, we're kind of those buyers. We're part of the fault of this. I mean, look at how long it took us to finally pitch it. Have you bought a new video card here recently?
Yeah.
In the past month?
Past 2 months, absolutely.
And, we wait until a card's been out for a while, try to get a good deal on it, because I think they really screwed themselves across the whole. NVIDIA really started it, but they made video cards unaffordable. I think the prices were unreasonable, and people don't want to spend $2,000 on a video card anymore. The funds, it's like, am I going to pay my mortgage this month, or am I going to pay a video card?
I'm pissed.
Buy a video card.
I'm looking at the price of my GPU now. It's down like $40 from what I paid for it less than 2 months ago.
Yeah, they're dropping. So
yeah.
And I mean, it's hardware, it's streaming, everywhere. They're seeing issues. One thing I did find, though, I wanted to go ahead. Do you have something you want to go in before a little bit of a segue?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's one company though that seemingly is bucking the trend, and it's an unusual suspect that you would not think that you would see in this ballpark. Ubisoft sees a 14% revenue bump, according to them. They released, now they're not a U.S. company, so their earnings schedule is a little bit different than what you see from everybody else. So they released their first half earnings report last week, posting revenue growth, which the firm attributed to its latest releases and back catalog performance. Their revenue, 836 million, I guess that would be pounds, is up 14% year on year. Euros, excuse me. Net bookings, 822 million euros, up 18% year over year. And operating income, 16 million euros compared to 215 million operating in last year's first half. So you're seeing net bookings and revenue up average 16% if you average them out in terms of this company. So it's not everybody and everywhere. Now, I will note that Ubisoft has not had a great couple of years in the past, so those numbers, I'm not saying they're fictitious or fake, but when you're doing not great and then all of a sudden, you get a decent, you're doing okay, yeah, then you could see a decent bump there. So that could be what's going on there as well.
Well, and aren't these games more of a single price? You buy the game and then you own it. I just feel
they all have passes, I think.
I mean, they may have a season pass, but they're not microtransaction games. No, I remember
they're not typically.
And I think that that's probably helping a little bit when they don't totally rely on the microtransactions, and people can buy a game and play it for a long time and not have to rely on doing a bunch of little purchases just to have a reasonable progression speed.
Yeah,
because that's the frustrating part about a lot of these games. Is okay if you don't want to pay the extra money, you can sit there and grind for 2 months and get to the same spot you can get to in a week when you buy this pass or buy some special things to boost your gear or whatever else. So yeah, Ubisoft doing well. I had one that I saw in here, Midwest Games. They secured $3 million in funding. So while everybody else is cutting, they're securing $3 million in funding. And I wanted to read to you what their statement is. The video game publisher aims to use the investment to bridge gap for overlooked communities. What does that mean? What's an overlooked community?
Are they talking about in regards of video games, or are they talking like in terms of like the population?
Well, they're making video games. They're going to make video games that are targeted towards overlooked communities, maybe featuring overlooked communities.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know what an overlooked community is.
Well, let's...
What would you consider? So at Midwest Games, we dedicate to bridging the gap and creating opportunities for underserved communities in the games industry. I don't know what that even means.
Well, let's ask Copilot. Underserved communities are populations sharing a particular characteristic as well as a geographic community. So they're going to make like regional video games now. So this will be like the Hotlanta video game that have been systematically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of the economic, social, and civic life. These groups include, Brian, but are not limited to Black, Latino, and Indigenous, as well as Native Americans.
What about
GTA? Shut up. Native American, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and other persons of colors, members of religious minorities, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, LGBTQIAP+, affected by persistent poverty or inequality. So hopefully that better explains the kind of video games that we're going to be seeing.
But that's 90% of the video games we see nowadays. What are you talking about? Underserved communities in the video game industry. GTA, that's like most of what that game is.
Yeah, Trevor's a redneck that lives in a trailer in the middle of Albuquerque or something. I mean,
yeah, but we look at all the other besides the latest. Well, they still have they have the three different. They got the rich guy, you got the redneck, and then you got a guy from the projects from the most recent one.
Franklin.
But before that, I mean, you had every kind of person in there. I mean, that may not be the example that they want. But that was underserved communities right there. You had Red Dead Redemption, which I thought should have more Native Americans in it. I wish it did. They could do an expansion. one thing you don't really see, we did show a video game that had that where you played a Native American, but that's something they really tiptoe around because you'll get yelled at if you display Native Americans how they actually lived. Then they'll say you're doing appropriation and they'll yell at you about it. It's like, well, I want to see a kind of like what Red Dead Redemption was. I'd love to see a video game like that where maybe it's prior to Americans, the Europeans coming over to what we now call the United States. I'd love to see a video game like that where you could experience and do some real research. Let us see what it was like. There's not a lot of documentation about it, but from everything that we know, create something that would teach people what Native American life was really like, other than them riding around in horses and shooting buffalo, or running buffaloes off a cliff, whatever else. Because there's a lot more that we don't talk about in the Native Americans, where they had large populations in kind of like what we call cities. You never hear about those things with them. You only hear about the ones that were roaming the plains. They had trade. They actually traded with the Central Americans, the Aztecs, and all them. Like that's one place that it's like people get so nervous about talking about Native Americans that people are ill-informed.
So
make a video game about that. I don't think that's the video game they're going to make, though.
Midwest Games' first title is going to be called Rah Rah Boom, and it's going to be a 2D beat 'em up style game. So it's going to be a street.
Detroit.
It's gonna be a side-scrolling fight. It's gonna be a side-scrolling fighter.
Pull up some images. Oh, you're gonna love this. Yeah, just search Rah Rah Boom in Google. They already have it on Steam.
Oh, is there a trailer? There is. Hold on, there's an exclusive
let's
launch
play the trailer. I mean, this might be worth.
Hold on a second. Oh, hold on a second. Good lord.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Whoa.
Yeah, sorry. Whoa. Hold on a second. All right, hold on. Here we go. This is Rah Rah Boom.
That's right. A lot of it looks like you got to be a woman so far.
This is every side-scrolling game that existed on the NES. What is? I don't understand.
Like what's under? I mean, they're showing women. I mean, is that like
there's plenty of women characters in video game? I mean, I guess
I know, but that's
maybe
these are the underserved. You're showing women. I mean, so far that's what I'm seeing is the underserved community in video games.
So you're just taking a regular style game and just making the character a female, and now it's for underserved communities, I guess. I don't know.
Hey, you got him $3 million, right?
Well, and actually, that money came from a lot of this money apparently came from a Microsoft-backed VC group.
Oh yeah. I mean, so here you go. This is Rah Rah Boom is an eye-catching, distinctive, fast-paced four-player co-op
I'll give
beat 'em
them
up.
that.
Yeah.
It is very pretty.
Driven by a meaningful and emotional coming-of-age narrative about a group of ninja cheerleaders that's from space in a fight to save the rest of humanity on Earth. What in the? How's that work? Like, how's that narrative
teenage
fit?
Cheerleaders from space?
From space. Why are they from space?
You know what, Brian? Some inner city child in a broken home is really going to be able to relate with this, I guess. I don't freaking know.
Yeah, okay, so that's their first. We got Midwest Games. That's the only thing they have on Steam. So not really a lot to hint at for the next things, but
wow,
that's crazy. So we have that to look forward to. So they're going to continue to reach the as they called it, overlooked communities.
So this money,
female cheerleaders from space.
Very relatable. So this money came from a venture capital firm known as Titletown Tech, which is an organization formed by a partnership between the Green Bay Packers and Microsoft. What an unusual group.
Yeah, that is odd. It's a indie fighting game shooter casual game.
Now I'll say this: in terms of old school style like beat 'em up games, that's a genre that should probably be back. That's an awesome genre. I have this problem, Brian, when you try and take something like so I'm supposed to believe, and again, I really do. I say and mean all of this genuinely. I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I'm not trying to be smug. I'm really not. But I don't understand. I fail to grasp the concept that you are going to make a any sort of video game, and based on the characters in the game, that's who your target audience is. I've been playing video games my entire life, and not once have I ever looked at a video game and decided whether I was going to purchase it or not based on who the main character is.
Unless it's a series that you've really enjoyed that has a leading character or something, I can understand that.
But that's only a couple games into the series. So I'm not going to buy Crash Bandicoot because I don't identify as a coyote or a fox? I don't know what the hell he is. I can't play Sonic the Hedgehog, Brian, because I don't identify as a hedgehog that eats chili cheese dogs, and it's the white is not actually my eyes, it's just glasses. I don't understand. They're video games. That's the whole point.
Well, and here, I mean, the underserved community, are they expecting girls to play this and identify with these girls?
But that's what I'm asking, is because I don't understand that idea. I've never played a video game because I've identified or wanted to identify with the main character.
You identify with Trevor, right, from GTA.
I don't identify with anybody. I just was playing Overcooked with my girlfriend. I don't identify as a chef now. I didn't play it because of the characters.
Or a pixelated chef.
Yeah. The whole concept to me is bizarre because I think I know enough about the video game industry. We have followed it and talked about it and been involved in it enough. People are not deciding on their game based on the makeup of the characters. They want a good story. They want nice graphics. They want something that's fun. That's what they care about.
Playable. Have you watched the new South Park movie that just came out?
How long ago did it come out?
I think in the last couple weeks.
No, I definitely have not. Is it good?
Okay, so there is a new movie, and it's called, I think, the Pandaverse.
Oh, I've heard about this. The Pandaverse.
Yeah, here we go.
I haven't
South Park movie, Pandaverse, which is perfect for what we're discussing right now. You really need to sit and watch it. But they're talking about the whole thing of just placing characters in shows, just to have a diverse, so they replace out.
It's not a movie. It's just it's just a special.
Well, it's like it's like an hour and a half long, 2 hour long special.
Well, let me see if I can find a copy of that online.
Yeah. So this one was pretty funny, but it talks a lot about this and really calls out Disney on just how they've been doing this like mad, and makes fun of them. It's pretty good. So if you're looking for something that kind of talks about this topic, go watch that film.
I will,
but expecting that it's going to be very much a South Park, and all the things that go along with it.
I'm gonna see if I can borrow a copy from somebody.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Excellent. All right. So I don't know. I think as a video gamer, make a game that's fun, make it playable, make it enjoyable. Don't think people really give two craps about what the main characters look like or what their backstory is. They just want to play a game that's fun. So that's my 2 cents on it. Maybe I'm totally off base. I just don't see it. I just don't think that's how consumers are not making. That is not how consumers are basing their buying decisions. That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's talk about how they come up with these decisions. There was something that came across the news here. It was the FTC is planning to hire child psychologists to guide internet rules.
Thank God I'm 26.
I know. They're hoping that. So the Federal Trade Commission plans to hire at least one child psychologist who can guide its work on internet regulation. And this is according to Democrat Commissioner Alvaro Bedoya in an interview they did this past Monday. The FTC, of course, Lena Khan, our favorite FTC chair, told the outlet that now they said he backs this plan, and Bedoya, who is a he, hopes it can become a reality by next fall, because they got to squeeze this in before the election, before there's a possibility of them being out. So they said They hope that it sends a strong signal to other law enforcement agencies in the U.S. by saying we need to have these folks in-house such that it's a standing capacity.
You're going to hire one.
They want to start having child psychologists help guide internet regulations.
You're going to have one psychologist for the entire country, for the entire
internet. It's going to be our Fauci of the internet.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Huh.
I mean, we got one guy making the decisions for when it comes to vaccines, so now we're going to have one guy making decisions for, or one girl making decisions, or one, sorry, that's not inclusive enough, one anything, making all the decisions for mental health impacts on children and young people online, which sounds a lot like what China's been doing recently. This is something they've been struggling with. But I think it's funny, the government's hiring one psychologist to make all these decisions. Not a board, not a team, one. So they're gonna help guide all these.
How the goal with this would be to help the FTC evaluate allegations of how social media may affect mental. I mean, do we really like? Isn't there already study? I mean, don't we already have enough evidence that shows that social media use is incredibly bad in young individuals?
I mean, and that these companies, most of them, one thing, Twitter isn't aimed, or X isn't aimed at children. That's one thing that they've done well, is not aiming that at children. But you have Snapchat and a lot of these other ones that are more for a younger audience. TikTok. They're 100% aiming and trying to use psychology. They're hiring probably more psychologists than the United States government to figure out how to entice people onto their platform. Google has done it. Facebook has done it. They try to figure out how can we make these algorithms and how can we make the way that this thing operates work to pull people in and make it addictive. And one thing they end up doing is making it to where people are fighting each other and hating each other. I think social media has created a lot more hatred across the internet when it comes to politics, and it comes to race, and it comes to everything else.
Sure.
Because they really emphasize the divides on decisions. So when one person has one belief, they sit there and feed you all this information that helps solidify your belief and gets all these other, look at all these other people that agree with me. And then you get one person who somehow trickles their way into that discussion who has an opposite view. And then everybody piles on them, and it intensifies their hate. I just think that that's what they've created. Twitter was one of the big things that led into this as well, because they only let one side really speak, and they could pile on as much as they want on the other side, and the other side wasn't allowed to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want it to be good, just have it be open. Quit trying to, but these are private companies, so how are now they're going to try to come in and regulate them? That's not what I want.
No,
I mean, I don't want Lena Khan making more of these decisions.
No, definitely not. We definitely don't want Lena Khan anywhere near any of that stuff. Brian, here's an interesting story out of Roblox, and I'm very encouraged to see this. Roblox is mandating partial returns to the office by the middle of next year. Now, they're giving way too much time for that, but Roblox is set to move back to working in office, according to an update shared with employees. In a blog post written by the Roblox founder and CEO, the company has asked an unspecified number of staff to return to its Santa Mayo headquarters by next summer. Remote employees will be notified by email with details regarding the location of their roles. They will be provided with an option to join a 3-day in-work schedule, which will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or take a severance package. So those are your two options. You can come in 3 days a week, or you can go find another job. Employees will have until January 16th of next year to make a decision, and then they'll start the rollout throughout the year, throughout the spring and into the summer. Those who will relocate will begin working in the Santa Mayo offices by July 15th. Those who decided not to relocate will be given 3 additional months until April 15th to transition out of their roles as full-time employees. Some will remain in their remote roles, such as those working in data centers, call centers, moderators, and things like that. But I guess if you're a key member, you're a developer or something like that, you're kind of collaborating with the team. You come back to the office and the CEO says, "We did not make this decision lightly, as we understand this decision to move is significant, both for our employees and their families. After numerous deep discussions regarding remote working, Roblox is an innovative company that needs to get back to working in person." Turns out,
you mean the metaverse of office of being in an office isn't working? Because these guys who are pushing the metaverse, they're finding that there's some things that just work better in person.
I've got my own little anecdote on this, I guess you'd say. When I was in my last job, I worked for an MSP, a managed service provider, which is a company that small and medium-sized businesses, they outsource their IT instead of having an internal person, or maybe they have just one internal person and they outsource the rest of it to a company like the one I worked for. And that was my first ever job in commercial IT. And I was in a small office with 3 guys. There was a 2-room thing. So there was a guy up front, and then in the back room, which was a little bit bigger, me and the other guy I worked with. And as I was starting this job and working through it, he's been in the IT space. He was in his late 40s. He's been in the IT field for 20-something years, Brian. So as I was dealing with customers and kind of learning the ropes, I'd very often be on the phone with the customer trying to work through an issue and be able to very quickly put my phone on mute and yell something out to him. Like, "Hey, Roy, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, I recommend this, that, the other." Right? It's little things like that. That's the kind of collaboration. It's not like sitting in massive board meetings all day and things like that. But it's collaboration like that you're not going to get through Teams or through sending a chat message that somebody who's probably not even at their computer because they're dicking around at home is not going to see and respond to right away. So, especially in a creative field, Roblox is a game. I think the CEO is right. I mean, we're a company that deals with innovation. And that is when you don't see these people, you don't throw ideas, you don't make little qualms and quirky jokes that somebody goes, "Oh man, that would be hilarious in a game," or something like that. That is significant. Big time.
Yep. And it's different companies. I mean, this is going to affect different companies in different ways, but ones that are making these single products like that, where they need to emphasize on some of these big pushes and having things where they're sitting down and having a face-to-face conversation to throw things back and forth, that doesn't as naturally happen in a Teams environment or, some sort of an online messenger. Luckily for me in my work, I'm working for companies around the country. And so remote works. So, I don't have to go in the office, but I still like to go in the office to maintain. I'll go in the office like once a week, at least, to maintain kind of that familiarity with my coworkers. So it doesn't turn into, I have this job that I don't know anybody at.
Sure.
That's part of it as well. But, Elon Musk pushed this quite a while ago, saying, we wanted Twitter people to come back in the office.
He got a bunch of crap for that, by the way.
Oh yeah, they pushed back on him hard. Everybody was like, "Well, look at Facebook, look at Google, they can do it." Well, they've also been bringing people back into the office. They're realizing that for those products, it just doesn't work, especially when you have such a tight code base that you need to keep secure, because it's a big deal if some of the source code leaks for Facebook, for X, or SpaceX. So these are things they want to maintain in office and not have ways to protect that. And when people are working remotely, there's a little less control of what can leave the office. And so I assume that has some to do with it as well. They've tried, with COVID, once again, one of those COVID things that they tried to make everybody work remote and thought it would stick. I think we'll have more people working remote than pre-COVID, but I think we're going to get to where it's more of a 50-50 of what we have now, people going back depending on the industry. And, the people that could have probably before COVID been working remotely and had no effect on their performance, they'll probably stay there, because I think it is cheaper in some ways to not have to have a physical office where they go down. You can entice people from different parts of the country and not to pay them the crazy, San Francisco, LA wages, Seattle wages that some of these companies were paying, and, be able to get some of those people that want to live in a place where the cost of living is half or more than what it does to live in those places where all those industries used to be.
Yeah.
That'd be a big thing for me.
Yeah, it is the realistic, practical thing to do. And
Yeah.
that's just where we are.
All right, I want to mention here one thing really quick. We had talked about open source at the end of 2 weeks ago or last week.
Yeah.
I just saw this article pop up, and I figured I'd throw it in the notes just to mention that. But here's one where they gave $500,000 to an open source maintainer. For people who think that open source is a bunch of people working for free, because that's the liberals love it, the socialists love it. There's a lot of money. I'm just reiterating. There's a lot of money that goes into open source. These companies throw money at them because other people are maintaining software for them, and all they have to do is pitch in money every once in a while, and they don't have to be in charge of it. So, dollars, they showed 2021, it was 155,000 they gave. 2022, they gave 260,000. 2023, they gave $500,000. So
there's a great line in here. Part of shipping with this company called Century, part of shipping with confidence is knowing that open source dependencies are well maintained, and one way to ensure these dependencies are well maintained is to fund them substantially. I mean, that's it right there.
Yep. Incentivize people to maintain these things. All these companies get to benefit from it. And if they want to really tailor where something is going, they can throw some staff to be volunteers work paid volunteers to work alongside them. And, that's what a lot of these companies end up doing. Microsoft does it. Microsoft's kind of embraced open source a little more here recently, but they're doing a lot of the same thing, especially with GitHub. They purchased GitHub, and GitHub has ways that you can help fund developers, GitHub sponsors, things like that. So I just not really one of our topics, but I just wanted to mention open source works because of capitalism. So,
Brian, I would love to agree with you, but it's evil and awful and terrible, and I can't. So, sorry, you're wrong.
Capitalism is just the worst thing ever.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to mention one thing that I ran across, and there's this company called Platinum Games, who had a producer who was criticizing journalists for fetishizing Japanese game development. And you look at, and so he said he wants to call attention because over in Japan, the game developers don't make a lot of money. They say there's really low wages for Japanese game developers. Really? They have huge crunch, which is more of a standard over there. I mean, you work like crazy in Japan. And they really, I guess they call it fetishize, but it's where people do like some of the games that come out of Japan. There's different style, there's different types of games that they put out than we do. But they're saying that how they do things over there goes against how a lot of people, especially the unions, try to push people to go over here. Part of the crunch, long hours. They have a crazy work ethic over there. But this is something where they feel like we've romanticized the Japanese game industry through games like what's that? Bayonetta 2,
Bayonetta?
Metal Gear Rising, all those Bayonettas. These games that you see. I don't really play those. The Japanese style games is just not mine. But there's a lot of people that's what they're really into.
But let me read this, because it says, this is what he says. After every Tokyo Game Show, all these Western journalists run around fetishizing Japanese studios and developers like tourists with blinders on, and it's absolutely infuriating. And as you noted, many Japanese devs make shockingly low wages and crunch for literally hours. I got off my years. I got off my plane instantly making double what I made in Japan. He now works for Epic. I went from working 60 plus hours a week for 5 years on Scalebound and sometimes 80 to 90 hours a week to working 40s. And I've never had to replace a lead in the U.S. because they were hospitalized with a stress-related illness, indicating that workers are calling out. I miss the food, I miss the people, I miss the beautiful country. But if anyone thinks for a second that labor practices in Japan are not atrocious, even on the best day, you are buying PR and your own nostalgia for the games you love. I talk about going back all the time, and I'm sure I will one day, and I know my exact conditions. A Western company on an expat package, or I run the studio. Unless there's a major cultural change, I would never work at a Japanese company in Japan again. Too much life to live. So
Yeah.
so it sounds like it's a overall Japanese cultural issue.
It's a cultural thing, yes.
So then why is he turning this into it's video game journalists' fault? I don't understand.
Because they sit there and fawn over these Japanese studios and get Japanese developers who get treated pretty poorly over there.
Sure, but it sounds like it's the entire economy sounds like it's like that, though. It's not just
necessarily
the video games.
What really he should be saying is, well, these journalists don't really realize, what it's like for the day-to-day of these
sure.
employees. They're sitting there acting like they're rock stars, but then when they go back to their office, they're definitely not treated like rock stars like some of them are in the United States. I think this is like the extreme side. We like to say we don't like to have these crazy, wanting to have a 3 or 4 day work week, and it's what the unions are pushing. But this is on the other side, and this is more of a cultural issue of it when it goes too far. You can look at the Japanese culture, and they do a really good job of promoting education. They push their kids really hard. You can argue the benefits of whether that's good or not, because I think, that it's good to a point, but, it can be bad. I think that there's a nice in between, a balance that we need to find. This is the extreme. These guys work like crazy. The wages aren't that good, but we have it really good in the United States. One thing that they should do is make us realize that we are blessed and we need to do things to maintain what we have. Because if the country keeps going the way it is, this is how it's going to be here. Because to get a job, you're going to have to be willing to, because it's going to be so difficult to get a job. You're going to have to be the one who's willing to do these things to be hired, because that's what it ends up becoming. Right now, when there was luxury of getting hired, and it almost, with minimal experience, you can get hired. Well, when you get to a place where the working conditions and the pay isn't that great, like, you'll take a job just so you can have a job so you can live. Right. And we're not there yet, but I really feel like when you look at the trend that we've been showing with the economy and with hiring, here we have a lot more government assistance and things like that if you're not hired. But what happens when that runs out? I mean, we're looking at having a huge crash in the economy here. We can only sustain so many people on government assistance, and we keep adding more and more and more people keep losing their jobs. We could hit a point where this is what it's like here too.
Sure.
It's easy to say it will never be like that here until it is. And that's what's really frustrating to watch is, we're hitting a point where just to have a job will be a luxury. Before we were expecting, with the Trump years, almost everybody, we had the lowest unemployment in a long, long time. If you asked him, you'd say ever. But, we had the lowest unemployment of a long, long time, and we took all those things for granted. Well, now look at where we're at. And what can we do about it as an individual? It feels like there's very little you can do about it. Over there, same thing with these guys. What can they do about it? What they're gonna sit there and march and say we're not going to show up to work? Okay, don't show up to work. You won't have a job over there. I mean, that's just how someone else will come and take your position because they want to have a job, and maybe it's a little bit better job for them from whatever place they were at before. So I can understand it to a point, but this is it's the culture, it's the economy, it's all those things that these guys are molding into, and we need to figure out how to get that balance. Part of it's going into work and figuring out how to get away from places that have super high costs of living, so you don't feel like you have to do crazy things to live and work. And over there, everything's super expensive. It's a small little island. Where are you going to get away to? Like, where are you going to move in Japan to get away from the high cost of living, to be able to buy a bigger place? you can only afford a place, because the cost of living is so high, and whatever job you can get is paying for a little apartment. And if you can work some extra hours, maybe you can get a car. Those are the type of things that they're working for, because they're like our major cities, where the expense of just living is so high. How do you get extra? Where here, if you live out in certain places, there's a lot of extra money.
Yeah.
So
very interesting. All right, Brian, we got anything before we get out of here?
Just one more thing. So
sure.
CD Projekt Red, they had to apologize because they had derogatory dialogue and graffiti that showed up in the Ukrainian version of Cyberpunk 2077. So someone had slipped this in there, and it was only in the Ukrainian. So the Ukrainian localization of Cyberpunk 2077 contains several remarks that could offend some Russian players. These remarks were not written by CD Projekt Red employees and do not represent our views. We are working to fix them and replace them in the next update. We apologize for this situation and are taking steps to ensure it does not happen again.
So this is pretty typical. You outsource your localization because obviously you don't know the language. You don't have people on staff that can do it. And obviously whoever they hired to do the Ukrainian translation, and rightfully so, pretty ticked off about what's going on. So I guess they slipped in a couple of keywords here and there maybe, and trying to make their point be heard, I guess, is the takeaway.
Yes. They had messages referring to citizen missile detection, COVID initiatives under President Zelensky, derogatory terms for Russians, and more.
Huh.
So,
well, there you go.
Yeah. So, and this company, so it's SBT Localization is the name of the company. They also did work on Baldur's Gate 3, Darkest Dungeon, and some other titles. So, we'll see. We'll see if we see other things pop up in some of those versions of the games as well. It might have been one employee that was supposed to take care of it and figured
I'm sure that's exactly what
here.
this was. Yeah, get away with it until you get caught, sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. But they took that out, so now I would assume it's fixed and they don't have that anymore.
There you go. All right.
All right. Do you want to cover one more thing, or how close are we on time?
We can do one more quick thing if you want, whatever you want to do.
All right, we talked about Roblox here for a minute. But Roblox is being accused of facilitating illegal gambling ring for minors.
Oh, great.
So parents have issued a class action lawsuit on behalf of their children regarding this. They're seeking unspecified monetary damages, restitution, and declaratory and injunctive relief on behalf of minor victims and a jury trial. This is by 50. So the complaint was filed in the Northern District of California on August 15th by parents who claim their children lost money by using the platform's digital currency, Robux, on third-party gambling sites. So
wow.
So they're facilitating an illegal gambling ecosystem, and somehow their kids are using their Robux on Roblox to be able to gamble on these sites.
So
this
what I would guess is that these sites are, the staging of this is probably inaccurate. I would guess these sites would be like randomizer loot crate sites and things like that, right? Where you're putting your Robux in and you have the possibility of winning all of these skins and everything else, and you're not. They're not putting their money into video poker.
What they're doing is you're linking.
Yes.
No, it's a virtual casino. So they're virtual casinos, and what they do is they can link their Robux wallet to the third-party gambling site and actually gamble on the site.
But what I'm saying is the kind of gambling they're doing, they're not playing blacks and crap. They're not playing blackjack and craps. They're likely gambling for skins and other things like that through the spin wheels or
it doesn't really say that.
But that doesn't make sense.
Gambling.
They're not, though, Brian. No 13-year-old is playing poker using Robux. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. They don't really go into details of how they were gambling.
But we've seen this. We've seen these sites before, where you're these virtual casinos for skins and loot inside of video games. I am positive that's what this is. I'm absolutely positive that's what's going on here. because nothing else makes any sense.
Or a way that you put it in and you can hit a thing, and maybe, if you hit the slots, then you get more Robux or something.
Something like, exactly, something like that.
A simplified version.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the whole goal would be to get skins or get things within the game using the credits that you've got right now.
Well, and they're going after Roblox, because they claim that these transactions are monitored by Roblox, and that the company allegedly takes 30% of transactions, which amounts to millions in annual cash fees. So that's why they're coming back to them. So yeah, here is this a picture of one of them?
This is apparently the site. So you're betting on skins apparently. Okay. Well, can we get to the damn? So the site is called RBX Flip apparently. Why is this not playing?
So yeah, you're right. So they are gambling for skins in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like you join one of these. Okay, so you're looking at items or trading items and things like that within the game. So there's a roulette.
So you're placing bets.
Yeah. So it is. I
mean, so it's pretty much roulette or like a slot.
That's kind of what it looks like. But look, I mean, you can see what's going on there. It's a very simple version of something to try and win a thing. And here are the cases, right? That would be the big thing. Interesting.
Well, there you go.
So it was called RBX Flip.
So they got kids to sit there and gamble. So
yep, there you go. Hey, it's all about getting the skins, Brian. It's all about getting the skins.
And they're gonna have to figure out. I mean, the only way they can really combat that is not allowing them to link their wallets.
Yeah, no third party.
Like
no API wallet linking. Sure. Interesting.
All right. Well, if you want to find me, you can find me on X at Boise Computer, or if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, or go check out my blog, biteoftech.com. Of course, if you want to go check out our website, infectionpodcast.com, just go to the upper right-hand side, and you'll see join our server on Discord. It's a really good place if you're wanting to contact Nick and I directly, or perhaps you want to give some input onto the next show. Throw a link into the show news channel, and we'll review that before the show starts. Also on there, we've got links to YouTube if you want to watch the show live, or Twitch. Of course, we have podcast version of the show if you want to go to the lower right-hand side. A lot of different ways that you can listen that are uploaded after the fact, as well as on Rumble. If you want to watch after the fact, that means that the show notes are going to be uploaded at that point in time, and you can go click on the particular episode and use the built-in audio or video player if you'd like to, or just use the links that we have that refer to all the different topics that we covered during that particular episode, maybe a video that we showed that you wanted to see, or some sort of a source material that has more information that we didn't discuss. But that's all available on our website. And if you want to support us, you can go to the support menu option at the top of the page, or infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, you can, Brian. Thank you so much as always. Greatly appreciated, and we will chat with you. We're going to get back on some sort of regular schedule here over the next couple of weeks, so yeah. Bear with us, folks. We'll get all that stuff worked out. But again, you can always check out the show, not live, but on our website, infectionpodcast.com. Brian, thanks. We'll chat with you next time. If you want to check me out, you can do that on X at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out my day gig. It is called Wilmington's Morning News. You can find that podcast and all your favorite podcast apps, or on my website, nickcraig.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it. If you miss any portion of today's show, real simple. Head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.